Hello and welcome to today's episode of Courage Permission Slip. I am your host, Kia, and today I have the real pleasure of welcoming Jen Szpigiel to the show. And before we dive in, let me tell you just a little bit more about her. Jen is the founder and CEO of Becoming Iconic, a seven-figure global business and leadership brand that elevates entrepreneurs who desire to create a seven-figure legacy through integral leadership. She is also the host of the Becoming Iconic podcast, and Becoming Iconic is all about the real, the raw, and the vulnerable truth, so important about being a female entrepreneur while weaving in the practicality of what it takes to design a life and business you love. Jen, welcome to the show.
So excited to be here. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So, we were talking a little bit before we, started the official show, and I am so moved and inspired by what just like the little snippet that I've been able to learn about you before now. And the part of your story, which, first of all, it was riveting to me, not riveting for you in the beginning because it was really painful, but there's been a lot of really beautiful blessings and silver linings that have come from that. But I wanted to start here because I also think this is really true to what Courage Permission Slip is about. And I wanted to start with, just kind of like the discussion about your social media being hacked and you losing all of your memories from Facebook and your tens of thousands of Instagram followers and the lessons that you learned from that. And like I said, with listening to your story, it took my breath away, like, oh my God. And, I have nowhere near that many, community members on my Instagram, but even still, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. And you said something in a recent podcast about, in becoming iconic, you're going to have iconic lessons. So I just would love for you to talk a little bit about that and what is being revealed to you on the other side of that.
So good. Thank you for just walking me through that from your perspective too, because it really does spark this inspiration yet again. I feel so called. I feel like I was initiated. That's just the truth. This was a big initiation and also a moment to step into what Becoming Iconic was. I think I need to go back just a little bit just to let people understand Becoming Iconic. So when I came up with this, well, I didn't even come up with this name. This, I believe, was divinely given to me. And I was really uncomfortable with it. I have a deep faith. And I was like, God, iconic? Are you sure you want me to use that word? Because that doesn't have a very positive tone in the Bible. And I don't know, is iconic mean I'm better than somebody else? What is iconic? But it just kept coming. I thought, okay. And it even agitated people. There was a few people when I launched my podcast that were like, I didn't want to listen to your podcast because you were saying you're iconic, but I actually love it. So it was really interesting that not only did it trigger me, but it triggered other women. And it started to have this vision for me where I thought, oh, wait, I have been asked to step up in my personal power. And that is my journey of stepping into that. But alongside, I get to encourage and inspire other women to do the same. So Becoming Iconic became that. It became this mission of personal power for myself and really being able to declare that and step in that and understand what that meant, because power didn't mean power over. Power did not mean better than. Power meant that I was so concrete in who I am that I can have the guts and the courage to step forward and share. So then fast forward to 2 months ago, I lost my social media. It happened in the blink of an eye, and it was a cat and mouse chase for a good couple of days. I was tenacious. I was going to get this back and trick these people. I was devastated. I was heartbroken. I am the person that holds a family of 4 children and my husband. So there was a lot of scarcity that dropped in, what's going to happen to my business? Are people going to leave? Are people going to even believe that I've had success? You realize how much ego is attached to the vanity metrics of social media. I wouldn't have told you I had that before. I would have said, oh, no, I'm all about the message. When it's taken away, you start to see your blind spots and you start to see your shadows and you're like, oh, wait, I was actually really comfortable in the fact that I had all this following, quote unquote. So this was an interesting initiation. It really was, because it wasn't far from the moment it happened to the moment I felt like I stepped into my personal power, and that practice of the years before, where I went, oh, wait, this is the story of becoming iconic. This is actually, in fact, the story of it, because it is not this luxury, wealth, success is having it all. Everything looks beautiful. Life is through rose-colored glasses. I speak on integral leadership. So what in fact is integral leadership? It is owning the mess. It is owning these moments where things feel like they're falling apart. It is owning those points where you feel like you've hit ground floor or the bottom. And I thought, if I'm going to actually have this brand and I'm actually going to be integral in this brand, I've got to show how to walk through this and overcome this. That's becoming iconic. And that was the most inspiring part of this entire journey to date.
So much. I mean, there was so much richness there, and this journey to getting from that, right, and acknowledging or admitting the comfort that you had in the followers and the value that we attach to those vanity metrics. And I do feel like there is this sea change that is happening. And also there are still many people that are still very locked in that, right? Like I've been rejected or turned down from opportunities because people are like, oh, you don't have the numbers that we're looking for, but you're really powerful and you're really strong. And I was like, but what? Okay, so I could be out here talking garbage, but I have the right numbers, right? So, I mean, I really resonated when you talked about, the value that gets attached to those numbers, right? To those metrics.
Yeah.
But then just, what you talked about of like owning the mess, right? And, being transparent that this isn't great. And being honest about what's coming forward for you, and then, but still keeping your eye on the goal and the destination that you're trying to get to and how you're trying to serve people in that moment.
Yeah. You know what, Key, you hit something right on the head there. The shift of paradigm is happening in social media. 2018, 2019, and there may be some people that are exception to this rule, but most would, if they were being integral, would tell you that they bought followers. That was the thing to do in 2018, 2019, because what did Meta, Instagram put in front of us and dangle the carrot? Hit 10,000 followers and you get your swipe up. So what did people do? Lose integrity because they were so hungry for the number to get the swipe up. Like that was going to give them the authority. And what you just said was so important, and is such a big message of mine too right now, is we're smarter now. It is not about the vanity metrics. Like, what do you stand for? What is your value? What is your character? What are you even pouring out to me every day? Because I actually want to be around someone like you who cares and is like hungry to serve, than someone who's sitting back and taking everybody for granted. It even makes me reject the word followers. I have such a thing with that now, because I don't know if any of us are collecting followers. Are we not collecting heartbeats? Human beings.
Oh yeah, I heard you say that. Yes, heartbeats.
Yes. Like these are human beings that decided to hit the tab follow because they saw something in us. And when did 100 followers all of a sudden not become enough? If you put 100 people in your living room right now, you'd go, oh, whoa, like this is a big deal. 100 people on social media, we don't even look at them. It's like fluff. And I think these are heartbeats who saw something in you. When did we start skipping over that and looking at people as a number? I can't participate in that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and it's so interesting you say that, because I remember my coach and I were talking about this a couple years ago, and I was like, oh, I only have this many followers, right? And she was like, okay, Kia, perspective shift. If you were speaking at an event And there were, and I can't remember how many, I'll use your word, heartbeats I had at the time. I can't remember the number, but it was like around 1,000, maybe a little less. And she said, she's like, Kia, if you were speaking at an event and let's just use a round number, 1,000, and 1,000 people were in the room, would that not be amazing for you? And I was like, oh my God, I would love it. I would love it. And she's like, okay, so let's just set that down. Just set that down right now. And just like you said, like, if there were 100 people in your living room, you'd be like, whoa, like there's a lot going on here.
There
Yeah.
is. I mean, there is. And what if we really decided to serve that 100 or 1,000 people? That's probably an excess of how much we could even handle if you're a coach. I mean, yes, you could put out a group program, but I'm talking about close proximity to you. I don't have this space for 100 private clients. So what if I had 5 beautiful private clients out of that, and the rest were just so excited to be in my presence because I cared deeply for them and they felt that sincerity? That to me matters more. My reputation for what I share and give and what I stand for matters more to me than the tens of thousands. And I'll be honest with you, here's the really interesting thing for those listening in. This is important. I want to give some tips too. The algorithm works. See, we're all caught. The algorithm doesn't work. Nobody knows the algorithm. Oh, it works. It works when you have engaged heartbeats following you. I had tens of thousands of followers. They didn't even know my name anymore. They weren't even watching what I was doing. It was just this hub of people that crossed my path at some point. I have now, I think, 700 followers, but the algorithm is working in my favor. I have more likes and comments and life in my social media than I have had in a very long time. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. But it's also a bit of a game. We have to look at Meta as the company it is. It had us chase a number. Now that we're at the number, it's saying, oh, but you know what? It's not all legit. You didn't do legit things to get here. So now we're going to almost like punish you for that. And it's like, you did this to us, but we did it to us. And we did it because we got caught up in feeling like that was going to build our business. What's going to build our business in our life is how we treat people and how they feel in our presence.
Yes. Agree with that 100%. So everything that you're saying, Jen, really is the core of what Courage Permission Slip is all about, like giving yourself permission to have these realizations, to make these admissions, and to take steps to being your full, authentic self, full of integrity. And so I would love to start with, and we talked about this a little bit before we started too, of what does the word courage mean to you? We talked about it means so many different things to so many different people at different parts of their lives. What does it mean to you right now?
Going before you're ready. So many people in their life and business, we wait to be ready. We wait for the feeling to come across, that bravery, that courage to hit us first, and then we'll do the thing. But doing the thing is what creates that sense of courage, that confidence in ourselves. So many people are in the waiting. I'll wait to be ready. Like they're getting ready to get ready. And to me, courage is going before you have that feeling of ready and seeing what you're made of. There's nothing more beautiful to witness, and there's nothing that builds a foundation of confidence and courage more than acting on the dreams and desires of your heart.
Yes. I remember, and I've been using this a lot. I was listening to a podcast, and this person was talking about a line that they heard this author, her name is Jen Szpigiel, say that confidence is overrated, that you have to give yourself courage to do the thing first, because confidence comes from doing. Right? Confidence comes from actually taking the steps, because you see, oh, I can do this. I didn't die doing it, right? Like nothing broke, I'm still here, right? And so it is that taking that step, as you said perfectly, before you're ready, because the readiness comes in actually doing and seeing, okay, this is how it's going. This is how it feels to me. Okay. And then, choosing the appropriate path. Thank you for that.
I learned something there. That is beautiful. It's not confidence, because that is what we get. It's the courage first. That's a beautiful distinction. So glad you're teaching that. Thank you so much on
Yeah.
behalf of everybody, because that is really important, because I think we feel like we need to have that confidence first. Like, I have to feel ready. And that's where imposter syndrome comes in. And like, I feel like an imposter. Why would I start a coaching business when I've never had a client? And, we worry about all these things. It's like, go and be in the experience. And when you're in the experience, you'll start to see your gifts and you'll start to see your superpowers, and you'll start to receive some beautiful response, whether it's a testimonial or someone's life change. And all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, that's why I was called into this. I'm in the exact right place, doing the exact right thing.
Yes, you are so right. And I'm living proof of that. So, Jen, we've just talked about a little piece of your journey, but thinking about your journey overall, how did giving yourself permission to be courageous, how did that lead you to where you are, or what you're doing right now?
It's a really great question. And it comes, I think we've already spoken about this. I can't remember if it was before we recorded or not, but it's worth repeating regardless. When we declare something, so the day before my social media left, I made a declaration. I made a declaration that I wanted to go all in. And my team was like scratching their head. What? We're all in. Like, how could we be more all in? I mean, we are all, I said, nope. There is more to all in. I don't, it's just a feeling I have. And my word for 2022 is more. I wanted to give more of me, have more experience, have more beauty, more taste. Like, I just want more. And so I thought that's what it was. And someone on my team said, do you mind if I give you some feedback? I said, yeah, sure. What's up? She said, I feel like we get 95% of you. There's a 5%, there's a something like a shield, a something in front of you. I can't put my finger on it, but I feel it energetically. And as soon as she said it, I was like, oh, I know exactly what you are talking about. I can tell you what that is. It is the fact that I have wounds from sisters. I have sisterhood wounds. I've worked diligently on healing those, but I always play a little bit safe for the worry. I'm looking over my shoulder of who's going to say something or come into the comments and make a mean remark. I'm afraid of the mean girl. Okay. I'm afraid of her. And they said, but how can you be all in and still afraid of the mean girl? What if you just went all in and that was enough? The very next day I lose my social media. My trust is broken. See, you can't trust the world. You can't trust people. Like, I mean, I'm just collecting the evidence of all the things why I couldn't trust. And the most beautiful piece on the other side of this is I've never had more support in sisterhood than I have in this very moment. People who don't even know me coming onto their stories and saying, go follow Jen. She's incredible. Let's support. It was breathtaking. And so to answer your question, when we make a declaration, we cannot be naive to believe that this is going to be easy, simplistic, without all in lessons. So I made a declaration. You want to be all in? Amazing. Here we go. And I believe, as in our leadership, we have to walk through these lessons of all in, and they're not going to be these small little minute things when you make that declaration. Yeah. So how has courage been a part of my journey is when I make a declaration, I expect there to be some turbulence. I expect there to be some lessons along the way. We cannot build lives and businesses being naive, feeling as though it's just going to be this beautiful incline up. It's going to be like the Rocky Mountains when you look at your business growth.
Real talk. Yes.
So yeah, that would be the answer, is like practice courage.
Yeah.
Make a declaration and continue to practice it. And that's what I have done. Not always well. Yeah, I can't look at you in the eyes here and say to you, I've always done this well. I haven't. But what I have done is always stood up over and over and over again.
Yes. And that's really the thing, because this goes hand in hand with failure, right? And people are, one of the chief fears that I hear people say in coaching or any leadership training that I'm doing is they're afraid to fail. And what I always say is it's only failure if you stop. It's only failure if you give up and don't try something else or, go in a different direction. It's only failure if you hit that hurdle and then you're like, well, I guess this is it, like that's failure. But you said it, like getting back up, right? Get back up, try again, go a different direction, take 10 steps back, start over, right? Like that is not failure, right? Like we're on this continuous journey. And the only time that we have to stop is when we transition out of this world. So just like you said, like, and you emphasize earlier, becoming, right? Like it's not become, it doesn't end there. It's this continuous journey.
100%.
Yeah.
And you realize that, especially the more successful you become, you feel like, oh, I hit this peak. Maybe for someone it's 5K month. Maybe for someone it's 10K. Maybe for someone it's 100,000. But you know what? I remember hitting my first $100,000 month. And you realize I got to the peak, and then all of a sudden you see this even bigger mountain, more treacherous climb. I mean, it is more dangerous than the one you just did. And you realize every time you summit to the peak, it is just seasoned you for the one that's ahead.
Sure.
And that is the joy of life. Can we stop wanting it to feel easy?
Yeah.
You know, so many people say, I want to just go to the beach. But you don't want to sit at the beach every day, because the beach would lose its essence, would lose its beauty, would lose its spark. Because what do? We take things for granted the longer we're around something. Think of our marriages, think of relationships, think of our business. We get relaxed into things.
Yeah.
So I just think also, like, in terms of courage and what we're speaking about here is like the audacity to try something new all the time and to look in the mirror and think, this is really not making me happy. I'm going to pivot. I love pivoting. I mean, that's an entrepreneurial spirit. Don't be afraid of that stuff. Try something on, try something new. And remember, you're never getting to a final destination. That is when we pass on to the other side. That's the final destination.
Right.
Until then, we're on a journey.
Yes. Yes. And I feel like I'm the master pivoter. I mean, my career has just been a series of pivots, right? So I'm like, okay, like now what? What's next? How can I shift this? But always keeping my eye on, how is it that I want to be showing up? Right. You talk a lot about having integrity. Like, how do I want to be showing up? Right. And the way that you achieve that, there are a million different ways that you can do that. You don't ever have to keep doing the same old thing. Right. It's keeping your eye on the ultimate objective that you have for yourself, and then being open to the ways that you get to do that.
Brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah. Beautifully said.
So Jen, you mentioned this a moment ago about some fears that had come up. What do you notice in the fears that are popping up for you right now?
There's still a tinge. There's like the dust in the room of people coming and finding my social media now and being like, 700 followers, Jen who? Because here's the thing, there's two sides to this equation. We participate in the vanity metrics, meaning we care about how many are here, but we also participate on the other side where we give automatic authority to someone just because they have a million followers. So we have to be honest here. We're participating on many levels. And so it's probably a daily exercise of taking a breath and realizing the right people are coming. The evidence is showing. And if someone's going to skip by because I have 700 followers and not be touched, it's okay. I wasn't for them, and I'm really okay. Bless and release. And I'm sort of fixated right now on quality over quantity. Sure. But it is much easier said than done. I cannot sit here and tell you I don't think about that every day. I can't sit here and tell you that I was getting my hair done yesterday and I said, anybody want to follow me? I had a goal of hitting 700 today, and some of them followed. Like, I'm still there. It shows its face, but at the same time, there's something really beautiful about the start over. And this time realizing that it's not from zero. We never start from zero ever. If you're in a career right now and you think, oh, I wish I had the courage to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know if I could start all over again. You're not starting all over again. You're building upon the foundation of all the experience and skills that you just generated through your corporate career. So you're not building from zero. You're building from that in something fresh and new. And that's really what I had to remind myself constantly with my social media. This is not from ground zero. This is a fresh, new approach. It's an opportunity to reinvent myself, to refine, to sink into like, what do I really want to say? It also deletes some of the things that no longer, like, there were expired things on my old social media, expired thoughts, expired people. And so it's a daily practice, because you're never immune to imposter syndrome. You're never immune to the vanity metrics. Those things are there. It's just how we move through them that really matters.
Yeah. I love that you said that. It's how we move through it that matters. It's how we move through it. Thank you for sharing that. And one thing that you said about, this beauty of starting over from where you are, which actually it reminds me of something that a colleague and I were talking about. We were working with a group of women who were in the midst of various types of career pivots. And I remember one person saying, oh, but here are two paths I'm considering, but what if I get down this path and then it doesn't work out? Now I've got to start over. And what my colleague said was very similar to what you said. It's like, but you're just starting from that point. You're bringing everything that came with you, right? You're bringing all the smarts that you use to make that decision.
Right.
And then you're using all of the input and accomplishments from your career to then help you pivot onto the next direction, the next experiment that you have with your career.
Love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. But as you are starting over, Jen, like what is coming forward in that starting over, right? I mean, like besides the fears of, the vanity metrics and all of that, like what are you having to give yourself permission to do and think and feel in this this period of rebirth?
It comes back to trust. I've always loved social media. So when people say, oh, social media, it's hurting our mental health and it's bringing comparison, it's unhealthy, all these things, I really disagree with that statement. It's what we allow. So if it's hurting our mental health, well, how often are you on? What are you absorbing? What are you looking at? So can we have a level of responsibility in how we are walking through and handling social media? I think there's a huge piece there that we are not taking our personal responsibility in it. I love social media, but I come from a fashion and marketing background. So for me, it's like curating this beautiful catalog. I just love the art of social media, which you could probably see if you go to my page. I mean, it's artistic to me. And so as I'm doing all this, it comes to trust. I keep coming back to trust. Are you going to trust yourself? Are you going to trust the people? Are you going to trust this process? Are you going to trust it? And that has been unnerving for me because what did I ask for that very first day? I'm going to trust people. Well, it doesn't come that easy. I have a lifetime of these collections of memories or experiences or micro and macro traumas that, they peer their heads around the corner and like, hey, we're here. And yes, I heal. But what it's taught me is we have gaps, we have blind spots at all times. And the trust I desire the most in this moment is the trust in myself. And can I look in the mirror and trust myself to continue forward, to trust myself to continually show up, to trust myself that the right people will come. And that has been very empowering, but it also is very vulnerable. It's highly vulnerable because there's no leaning back on all of these followers. It is become like I keep saying becoming iconic, but it's only because that's the mantra is trust and show and be the leader that you're teaching. And that is a big level of responsibility, but I have signed up for that.
It reminds me of something that I was listening to a interview on a morning show. And the gentleman that was talking, he's a country singer. His name is Jimmy Allen. And he was talking about, he's a male Black country singer. And he was saying, yes, there are people outright that have told me, I don't like Black people. And, and then like trying to get his music played on the station. But he was reflecting back on something that his mom had said to him. She said, you chose this path, deal with it. Right. And so it is like trusting your choice, trusting your decision. And then, as you said, like dealing with the, the ridges of the Rocky Mountain, and not saying that, you have to like turn a cheek to offenses and things of that nature, right? Like you deal with things as they come, but recognizing like, this is what's important to me. I'm willing to take or persevere, thinking about, in the US, the new Supreme Court justice that was just confirmed, Ketanji Brown Jackson, and her statement of persevere, right? Persevering.
Mhm.
And you talked about that, like trust is hard.
Yeah.
And I will say that's really something that I have been leaning a lot into within myself over these last several months, of like really leaning into what it means to have faith and
Mhm.
trust in my abilities, my experience, my accomplishments, and my ability to make decisions that serve me. It's not an easy thing to do.
It's not, but you are doing a great job. Yeah, like let's just spend a minute. You really are. I do a lot of interviews. You're very
Mm,
articulate. You are expressing yourself and thoughts beautifully, and I think you are doing exactly the right thing and on exact
mm,
right path. I feel that in my bones. So interesting as something came up for me as you were speaking is like every love story, every big leader walked a very treacherous road.
mm,
I mean, think of a love story. The greatest love story is not the ones where people fell in love and they lived happily ever after. They fell in
right.
love. There's something happened. They broke
Mm-hmm.
up. They got back together. Those are those love stories we love tuning into. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
this perfect evolution. And the same with the greatest leaders. If we think of those big leaders in the world, my goodness, they went through some of the biggest overcoming and lessons and comebacks of of the stories we've ever heard. And so again, what are we asking? If we want to have a simple life, one of very little controversy,
Mm-hmm.
very little conflict, there's a really easy way to do that. We can just get in our comfort, stay there, and be
Mm-hmm.
peaceful in that. And that's
Mm-hmm.
okay. For some people, that really is
Absolutely.
a good
Yes.
life. But if we want to be people who live courageously,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've got to be ready to persevere.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to be
Mm-hmm.
ready for those things to come and slap us. And
Mm-hmm.
how we are in that moment is one of the best things we can either do or one of the worst things we can either do for ourselves.
Yes. Woo! That's a message. That is a message. So, Jen, for the person that is listening to this, listening to your story, and is, thinking that's great for her. She's been doing this a long time. Of course she can make these decisions and make this pivot. But for the person who is listening to this conversation, listening to your lessons, listening to your experience, and they have a goal or a dream or a vision on their heart, but the fear is more important than the goal.
Mm.
What is your guidance to them to help them move forward?
Two things, maybe
Mhm.
three. We'll start with two. Is personal responsibility and personal leadership. It's what I love to teach. We look
Mm,
at leadership as someone show me the way, right? We all have mentors. I have mentors. You have a mentor.
mhm,
We have those people because we're like, show me the way and help me to avoid some of those things that I can now avoid based on your
mhm,
experience. But the most profound leadership of all is how we lead ourselves, the
mm,
practices, the way we behave
mhm,
behind the scenes.
mhm,
We cancel on ourselves all the time. So many people come to me and they're like, well, my partner doesn't believe in me, he says I shouldn't, he's saying I'm on my phone all the time. Like we're having some conflict in our marriage because of this. And I'm like, well, how many times have you declared a goal and followed through? Well, and I said, well,
mm,
listen, trust also comes in following through on the things we said we're going to do. The confidence is built within, but it's also built with the people around us who are like, wow, you said you were going to do that and you did that. And fear starts to dissipate, but fear will always be there. It can actually be fuel and kerosene on your fire versus the water. Why don't
mhm,
we allow that to be like, okay, I'm going to lead myself really, really well. That means I'm going to get up a little earlier. I'm going to hone my
mhm,
craft. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to do my workout. I'm going to drink my water. I mean, these are great leaders. It's not the ones publicly necessary. It's the ones who can do those things when nobody is looking. And so when you start to do that, you start to build belief in yourself and you start to learn and absorb and feel different energetically. And all of a sudden now you have a little boost like,
Yep.
oh, maybe
Yep.
I'll dip my toe today. I don't know. Let's see what we can do. And it's just these small incremental yeses to yourself and follow throughs that start to create that evidence that now you go, okay, let's see what I've got. I don't believe many people have a dream and go, oh, got it, no problem. I mean, then is it really a big dream? If it
Right.
doesn't scare you, then are we really dreaming big, or are we playing safe? And yeah, we
Mhm.
are, because it should be
Mhm.
scary. We're
Mhm.
stretching into something new, and the
Mhm.
fear of so many things can come up, but we get to be really compassionate with that, and at the same time really diligent through that.
I love what you said about this. You talked about radical personal
Mhm.
leadership, right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
being able to own, I'm going to have to do some hard things. I'm going to have to sacrifice to do these things. And, you were talking about like getting up a little earlier, right? In pursuit of the goal, right? And
Mm.
it's not easy. It's not easy to shift the habits that we've had for so many years, right? It's not like you wake up one day and it's like a light switch goes
Mhm.
off.
Mhm.
It really is, okay, I have to build this muscle. So I'm going to do it in little increments, right? Like I always say, like, it's not like flipping a table, because that's a great way to set yourself up for failure, right? So
Mm.
it is making these small, like micro decisions and taking these micro steps, like you said, getting up a little earlier and, maybe making a different to-do list for yourself, or shifting your schedule a little bit in order to make space for this person that you are becoming or wanting to become. But you have to be willing to accept the pain or the discomfort that comes with these little shifts that are in pursuit of this goal that you have for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's really what I agree with, and it resonates with me, and it's something that I talk with my clients about. It's like, well, do you want the current pain, or do you want to live with regret here?
Exactly. And what comes up for me too is one of my best practices is I make all of my decisions from my higher self,
Ooh,
meaning
yes.
in 5 years from now, what do I desire? Like I think a lot of, you'll hear me say desire and pleasure a lot, because I know what I crave is peace. I want to create memories.
Mhm.
I want to taste good food. I want to laugh a lot with the people I love. I want to touch the world and have the world touch me. And so, if that's what I want, I think to myself all the time, Jen today can't make all those big decisions for 5 years from now because I don't have the knowledge or
Right.
expertise. So, I'll sit with it and I'll breathe and I'll think, if I were her, I
Mhm.
picture myself, what would she say or do right now? Because it's
Mhm.
drastically
Mhm.
different usually than what I would do, because I'm still attached to yesterday's
Yes.
disappointment, yesterday's
Yep.
didn't work out, yesterday's argument. So that's still lingering in the air. But
Mhm.
if I can eliminate that for myself and put myself in that 5 years from now woman who I know I
Mhm.
am pursuing,
Mhm.
she makes very different choices.
Mhm.
She's calm, cool, collected. She
Mhm.
sits back in her chair, crosses her leg, puts her arm back and says, I've got you. Let's go. Come on.
Mhm.
You've got this.
Mhm.
And that feeling of being able to sink into myself and be there with myself and be in relationship with myself has been one of the
Yeah.
best practices I've ever done.
I love that. And what you were talking about reminds, and I honestly, I haven't done this in a while, but I used to do future self visioning, and
Mhm.
really, going to that place, going to that version of myself, that highest self or higher self, best self, that is doing the things that I want to be doing or living the way that I want to be living. And
Mhm.
I will, you know, ask her, okay, what do I need to do today? What are one or two things that I could do today that get me closer to you? And I remember, I laugh about this because I told this to my coach and she was like, yeah, so what'd she say? We were doing the visioning, and it was one of these things where I was prompted to ask a question, and something along the lines of, what do I need to do to get there? And I remember my future self saying, why do you keep asking me this question? You know the answer, right? And I was like, oh, that's something I say now. And so I could totally see my
Yeah.
future self like really leaning into that. And so I knew the answer. I knew the
Mhm.
answer because I had already said it and done it. And so she was like, why do you keep asking me the same question? You know the answer. So yes, like, it within you, but you have to release, as you said, release the stories that you're telling yourself, release the disappointment and the attachment to these things that didn't work as well or didn't go the way that you wanted them to or didn't feel great, and really lean into that version with that trust and that faith and like being really authentic to who you are. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that you shared that, Jen. Love
Yeah,
it.
that is beautiful. It reminds me of the saying, faith it until you make it, which I say often. We got
Ooh,
caught in the hustle culture, fake it till you make it. So we had a
yeah.
lot of performative personas running around, faking and pretending out of integrity. People
Yeah.
smell it, they smell it. And so
Yeah.
that breaks our trust with
Mhm.
ourselves, breaks our trust with people.
Mhm.
It's like faith it until you make it. Have the faith that you've got what this takes. Have the
Yes.
faith that the right opportunities will come down your path. Have the faith that the right people will be presented to
Mhm.
you. I mean, the God I know, he's not up there going, oh, I'm going to test you and I'm going to take that. I have a God that's up there like, go, go, go. And I'm going to
Mm.
support you and be there for you and love you through this. And so to
Mhm.
me, I lean so deeply into that. It's like, I faith this. I've envisioned this. I have to believe that this is a part of my reality. If I could see it, if I can see
Yes.
this now, it's just like, who do I want to be today to move me closer to that
Yeah.
vision?
Yeah.
And that is a beautiful existence because every day counts and every day matters. You're so intentional about the things you do,
Mhm.
the decisions you make, the way you speak, the time you spend with, like,
Mhm.
I feel so blessed to be here with you. This is
Mm.
a part of the journey. This is a
Yeah.
memory I get to
Yeah.
collect and a
Yeah.
new friend I get to meet. It's just so
Mhm.
beautiful, but we get
Mhm.
in the way because we think we have to look, be, have first. It's not.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
not. Nobody
Yeah.
cares you don't have the Louis Vuitton bag. They don't care about that. What they care about is,
Mhm.
how do you make me feel? And
Mhm.
can we do something together that creates something beautiful in my life? That's what they care about.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. And the more that we can detach from the way things look, because, and I've been saying this a lot, and I've been talking with so many people because, we spend so much time thinking about what other people think of us
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
what they think about what we're doing. And really, the reality is we're all like, oh my God, people are going to think that I'm crazy. People are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. And so it's like, if we can just focus on the work that is ours to do,
Mhm.
focus on what it is that we're trying to achieve, how we want to be showing up in this world, like those outward signals or expressions, like that's not going to matter, right? And we talk about a lot about how people are putting their best foot forward on social media, but not talking about the hard things, right? Not talking about the struggles that they had that led up to that moment of brilliance that they were able to share. So
Right.
yeah, it's really, really important that we kind of let go of some of those trappings and
Mhm.
focus on the work that is ours to do, and let it be good enough for you. Let it be good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
I think sometimes too, we feel like we have to impress people. And if
yeah.
someone has a team or they have clients of any sort, doesn't matter what program or service or
Mhm,
product, when they come to us to purchase whatever that is or be in relationship, however that
mhm,
looks,
mhm.
we have to remember we've already impressed. They wouldn't be asking and walking
Yes.
through the door if we haven't already created a level of impression, like of who we
Right.
are and how it feels to be with us. And so we spend so much time like ruffling our tail feathers and and
Mhm,
and
mhm,
pump, like, I don't know, I don't even
mhm.
know how to describe it, but it's like so much energy trying to impress people that are already impressed. They're
Yeah.
here because they saw you and you made them
Yeah.
feel a certain way. And so now it's like stepping into that personal power, and that's a new
Mhm,
thing for a lot of women. Like,
mhm,
what is personal power?
mhm,
Personal power is the knowing that I am here, I have a purpose, I don't need to impress, I get to be,
mhm,
I get to be grounded and anchored into that, I get to show up. And this is all such a privilege. And I am going to cherish my relationships, I'm going to honor my relationships, and I'm going to live this day the best I can, and hopefully a little better than I did yesterday.
mhm,
And if we spent more
mhm.
attention on that, we would
Mm.
all have a much more peaceful life. That's the truth.
Yes. And that is the mic drop. I think that is the perfect place to leave this because, a day like today is not going to come again. It's not.
No dress rehearsals.
Yes, no dress rehearsals at all.
No.
Jen, This has been such a beautiful, energizing, uplifting, inspiring conversation. Thank you so much for everything that you shared and the light that you are bringing to this world.
Thank you. Thank you, Kia. Thanks for having me. This has been a pleasure. I enjoy conversation that has depth and meaning and is met. And I felt met and seen. And I really appreciate you and how you hold space. Thank you so much. This is a beautiful
Thank you.
podcast. Your community is very blessed.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Jen, where can people connect with you and learn more about you and the work that you're doing?
Thank you for asking. I love to play on Instagram, so that's becoming iconic. So come hang out over there. And of course, every follow is like Easter egg found on Easter morning. So it feels really fun to find new faces and to see new faces. It's just such a joy. I do have a website, becomingiconic.co. I have a free program because I love to give. It's one of my values. So there's manifestation in motion on how to manifest through gratitude. It's a different spin and something that I think people will be able to start wrapping their minds around. There's a lot of manifestation talk out there. I don't know if a lot of people understand how accessible it is. So that's available. It's a 5-day program, completely free. So you can just download that and have that at your leisure. I love giving that if your audience would feel like that's something that would serve them. And yeah, the Becoming Iconic Masterclass, the podcast is always a place I pour into. Again, just another way of giving generously. And you do that as well. As a podcaster, that's that energy just to give.
Yes.
And it feels really beautiful to be able to do that weekly. So those are the best ways to find me.
Super. Well, and I will share all of Jen's contact information and resources in the show notes so that you can get in touch with her and be a heartbeat in her community.
Thank you.
And that is it for today's episode of Courage Permission Slip. Thank you so much for joining and following along. If you found us on YouTube, please make sure that you like this episode and subscribe to my channel so that you can be alerted when new episodes are available. And if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please be sure to rate and review so that you can make it easier for other people to find and enjoy this content as well. Until the next episode of Courage Permission Slip, thank you, and make sure that you are making your dreams bigger and more important than your fears. Bye now.